Alex here with a legal nuts and bolts video on personal jurisdiction. I'm going to cover subject matter jurisdiction in my next video, so make sure you watch that video after because you need both. A court needs to have both personal jurisdiction and subject matter jurisdiction to be able to say that it has the authority to hear the case and render a decision on the case. This may be confusing to people, but judges do not have the authority to render any decision anytime, anywhere they want to. They have to have jurisdiction, which is basically them saying, yes, I'm a judge, yes, I've been elected, yes, I have the power to render decisions, but I also have looked into these particular details, and because of those details, I do have jurisdiction over this specific case. That's what matters. Again, those details are going to be covered half in this video and half in the next video. So personal jurisdiction, which is the details that I'm going to cover in this video, has to do with whether or not the court has jurisdiction over a particular person or a particular piece of property. So when you file a lawsuit, the court will have jurisdiction over you because you're the one that's filing it. You've consented to that. But the court needs to make sure that it has jurisdiction over the other person that you're suing or whatever you're trying to do with a particular piece of property. So anyway, I'm going to go into that now. The three types of personal jurisdiction are in personam, in rem, and quasi in rem. In personam is, as it sounds, is the person. So usually I think it has to do with how long a defendant, where it has to do with, is the defendant a resident of this particular municipality or county or whatever. And that usually is defined depending on how long they've lived there. There may be other ways of getting in personam jurisdiction, like for example, maybe if they work somewhere, or maybe if they did business somewhere. Like if they did business in your judicial district, maybe you can, get personal jurisdiction on them that way. The point of this video is to give people a topic of something that they need to look into and explain a little bit about that topic so you get kind of a hint as to what you need to look into. The point of this video is not to tell you exactly what's correct in exactly your case. So yeah, those are just 2 or 3 ideas that I would look into that if I was filing a new case. I'd look into where the person lives, or to see if you can get personam jurisdiction over them just because they did business there or they work there. I'm not sure. So make sure you look into that. In rem jurisdiction is, as I mentioned earlier, the property. So for example, if you're trying to do like a quiet title or maybe even a summary eviction, I'm not fully sure as to how summary evictions work, but I have a feeling it has to do with where the property is. And as I mentioned earlier, it's different. You're not actually targeting the person, you're targeting the property. So pretty much wherever it is. So if the property is in a certain municipality or a certain judicial district, then that's the court that would have in personam jurisdiction. Quasi in rem, I imagine, is a combination of the two. I'm not going to look into it because, I mean, that's just not the point of my channel, to actually find every single little possible detail for you. But I would imagine that quasi in rem has to do with some kind of case that you're bringing to a court that's based on a piece of property, and the court probably has some kind of control or something over the people connected to it or something like that. Again, those are just guesses. I'm letting you know this exists and this matters because if you file a case in a court that doesn't have personal jurisdiction, they're going to just dismiss your case. So that's what I'm here for, bringing up a topic, bringing it to your attention, look into it. I've never had a case ever dismissed for lack of personal jurisdiction, but I can't say that I have done a tremendous amount of research on it, otherwise I would be talking a lot more about it. In fact, a lot of the times, people who represent themselves end up kind of bypassing all of these technicalities because you'll go to the self-help center, they'll give you the packets, and typically it'll talk in the packet about, where does the person live, or make sure make sure the kids have lived in this place for a certain amount of time. A lot of times you don't even know that you're checking into the personal jurisdiction issue, and just based off of whatever advice you're getting from some attorney or help center or whatever instructions you're reading from a form, you just end up coincidentally you end up filing the case in the appropriate county. So hopefully this isn't something that's a super complicated issue. Hopefully it doesn't frighten people away, because the words, there's so much Latin in those 3 subtypes, in personam, in rem, and quasi in rem, and I know it can be daunting that these definitions, there's so many of them. And so anyway, with that, I'll go ahead and end this video, and I'll see you guys next time when I cover subject matter jurisdiction.